Welcome back, everyone, to another explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into this, because today we're executing a pretty ruthless, clinical teardown of two foundational laws of power. But look, we aren't looking at these through the lens of ancient history. We're tailoring them entirely for the high-stakes reality of the modern boardroom. We're talking about the psychology of influence, the hidden traps in our daily interactions, and the silent mechanics of actual true leverage. So, grab your notes, get focused, and let's dissect the anatomy of power.
Arguing is for amateurs. Man, that hits hard, doesn't it? I really want to hook you immediately with this brutal truth, because relying on verbal debate to win is just a fatal miscalculation for the modern corporate operator. We're constantly conditioned to believe that whoever has the best words, the sharpest logic, or even just the loudest voice in the meeting, they win the day. But in the real world of power dynamics, engaging in a verbal tug-of-war is literally the quickest way to lose your footing.
Historically, when people taught these concepts, they default to these old stories about Michelangelo altering statues to appease a mayor, or, I don't know, ancient engineers arguing over which battering ram to use. And honestly, that's a massive learning bottleneck for us. You and I operate in boardrooms, through pitch decks, and sometimes, alongside toxic co-founders. The high-stakes psychological reality of modern networking and sales pitches requires an entirely updated framework. We are moving way past physical craftsmanship and stepping right into the psychology of modern business survival.
All right, let's get into our first core concept. Law 9, win through your actions, never through argument. So, think back to your last really heated meeting. You know the one, the back and forth, the raised voices, the endless presentation of contradictory facts. Did anyone actually change their mind? Or did they just kind of dig their heels in deeper? This brings us to what's known as the debate delusion. It's this false belief that pure logic, data, and reasoning can somehow win over a superior without triggering their defensive ego. And this is a fatal flaw for so many brilliant people. Because when you argue with someone, especially someone in a position of power above you, you're essentially impugning their intelligence. You make them feel insecure. They might nod politely to your face just to get you to stop talking, but secretly, deep down, you are stirring up some profound resentment. You're attacking their ego, not their argument. I know exactly what you're thinking right now, but my data is right. We simulate this endless verbal tug-of-war in our heads constantly, right? It's like a seesaw just going up and down endlessly. You present a fact, they counter with an opinion. You push harder, they get defensive. Listen, even if you manage to drop this heavy weight of undeniable logic on your side of the seesaw and you win the moment, you really need to realize that any momentary triumph in a verbal argument is actually a Pyrrhic victory. The cost of winning that debate is losing the relationship. Because inevitably, the argument just devolves into a frustrated, well, you just don't understand the vision. When emotions flare up like that, logic completely vanishes. And I really need to emphasize this crucial point. The ill will generated by those arguments lasts far, far longer than any temporary change of a superior's opinion. You might win the battle of words on a Tuesday, for sure, but you're going to lose the promotion on Friday because that bruised ego, it doesn't forget. Words trigger defenses. They absolutely do not build bridges.
So the reality is sobering. Winners don't debate, they demonstrate. Words are a dime a dozen, and no one is ever truly persuaded by hot air. If you want to convince someone of your value, your idea, your strategy, whatever it is, you have to stop talking about it. You have to remove that verbal threat entirely and shift to a completely different paradigm of persuasion. Which brings us perfectly to the proof paradigm. When you stack verbal arguments won against actual profit margins demonstrated, there's just no contest. Zero. Instead of walking into an office armed with bullet points and a debate strategy, try this. Slide a functional prototype and a proven profit margin across the desk. Don't tell your boss the new system is better. Build a small-scale version and actually show them the cost savings. Don't argue with a client that their request is impossible. Just deliver an alternative result that completely blows their mind.
Demonstrate. Do not explicate. Picture a majestic eagle just landing powerfully, silently, exactly where it intends to. That is your goal here. Delivering impossible, undeniable results completely bypasses the ego. It forces psychological submission without a single fight. You have to let your results end the conversation abruptly. Because when the proof is sitting right there on the table, the debate is over and your power is absolute.
Okay, pivoting cleanly to our next concept. Law 10, infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. We need to set a very clinical, almost urgent tone right now.
because we're moving out of the boardroom debate and into the toxic network effects present in our personal and business ecosystems. You have to beware of the savior complex. This is the toxic impulse to fix a chronically complaining client, a failing friend, or a totally disastrous business partner. Look, we've all been there. Imagine a highly successful startup founder who decides to take on this hopelessly disorganized legacy client, just to, help them out. 6 months later, that founder's entire team is burning out, missing critical deadlines, and drowning in that client's chaos. Helping perpetually unlucky people isn't noble. In the modern ecosystem, the absolute fastest way to bankrupt your business and your life is trying to save a drowning person who will only end up dragging you under with them. You aren't fixing them, you're just infecting yourself.
This virus-like spread of misery usually happens in 3 distinct stages. It starts with step 1, pity. You feel bad for their string of bad luck. But that opens the door to step 2, emotional contagion. And let me tell you, emotional states are as infectious as physical diseases. You start taking on their stress, their chaotic energy, their endless drama, which leads inevitably to step 3, bankrupt business or just a bankrupt life. The reality is, in a high-stakes environment, you can literally be destroyed by someone else's emotional state.
Instability is a virus. Imagine a digital network lighting up, healthy, glowing, doing its thing, until one corrupted red node connects and rapidly infects the entire grid. That is exactly what a chronically unhappy person does to your professional network. You really have to understand that these individuals aren't merely victims of circumstance. They actively, maybe even subconsciously, draw misfortune onto themselves through their patterns of behavior. And if you permit them into your network, they're going to draw that exact same misfortune onto you. They will corrupt your entire grid.
So what's the solution? Quarantine. Picture a heavy steel door slamming shut, locking out those infected red nodes. In the game of power, the people you choose to associate with are absolutely critical. The fix is absolute. You must ruthlessly lock out toxic individuals. Don't argue with the chronically unlucky. Don't try to fix them. You have to flee their presence and exclusively associate with the happy and fortunate if you want to survive. Your professional survival literally depends on enforcing this boundary.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a pretty provocative question to chew on. Will you argue and drown, or demonstrate and survive? Seriously, take a hard look at your daily professional interactions. Are you wasting energy engaging in ego-driven debates that only lead to Pyrrhic victories? Are you draining your own resources trying to save chronically unlucky clients who are actively corrupting your network? It's time to reevaluate exactly where you put your energy.
So here is your mandate moving forward. Enforce the quarantine and demand the proof. Stop talking and start building prototypes. Stop trying to save toxic partners and start building a network of the fortunate. If you apply these 2 clinical, highly actionable takeaways, you will entirely change the power dynamics of your professional life. Keep focusing on the proof, guard your network ruthlessly, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.